The 2025-26 Euroleague season kicks off with an exciting first round. We start with Olympiakos' victory in Victoria. It was a very difficult game against Baskonia, which they managed to win thanks to a final stretch where they made the difference. For Baskonia, the starting five with the most minutes consisted of Forrest, Howard, Sedekerskis, Luwawu-Cabarrot and Diop. The most notable scorer was 23 points from Luwawu-Cabarrot, shooting 5 of 8 from three-point range. For Olympiakos, the starting five consisted of Walkup, Vezenkov, Dorsey, Milutinov and Fournier. Vezenkov had a great game with 24 points and 13 rebounds. Now, let's move on to one of the surprises. Hapoel's 16-point victory over Barcelona. The Hapoel lineup with the most minutes was Micic, Wainwright, Oturu, Bryant and Jones. In terms of scoring, Micic, Oturu and Blakeney all made good contributions. Hapoel had great percentages. For Barcelona, the lineup with the most minutes was Satoransky, Punta, Clyburn, Shengelia and Vesely. Clyburn had a great game with 23 points. Laprovitola still has a few minutes left. Another surprise was Virtus' victory over Real Madrid. The Virtus starting five with the most minutes was Edwards, Niang, Smilagic, Jallo and Morgan. Edwards and Niang stood out in the scoring department with low percentages from three-point range. For Madrid, the starting five with the most minutes were Campazzo, Hazonia, Dek, Okiki and Tavares. A lamentable 3 for 23 from three-point range, with Hazonia going 0 for 7. Scariolo undoubtedly has a lot of work to do. Let's go with a debutante, Dubai. A great victory over Partizan. Dubai's starting five was Bacon, Musa, Bertans, Wright and Petrusev. Musa and Bertans had great scoring percentages and a solid contribution. For Partizan, the starting five was Parker, Jones, Bonda, Brown and Jones. Poor percentages and little to report. Let's start with FS's victory over Maccabi. For FS, the starting lineup was Larkin, Lloyd, Weilerbab, Cordinier and Osmani. Smits's contribution, with fewer minutes but great percentages and 16 points, is particularly noteworthy. For Maccabi, the starting lineup was Blatt, Brissett, Sorkin, Horde and Clark. Horde was the best, with 15 points and 9 rebounds, with great percentages. Let's start with Milan's victory over Crvena Zvezda. For Crvena Zvezda, the starting five was Miller McIntyre, Carter, Kalinic, Wara and Moneke. Wara stood out with 19 points and 6 rebounds, while Ebuka also stood out with 14 points and 100% shooting. For Milan, the starting five was Mannion, Bolmaro, Lede, Shields and Nebo. Lede had a great game with 21 points and 5 rebounds. Let's move on to another of this year's contenders, Panathinaikos, and their victory over Bayern Munich. For Panathinaikos, the starting five was Nunn, Rokovopoulos, Grant, Holmes and Yurtseven. Nunn led the way with 21 points and 10 assists, accompanied by a surprising Rokovopoulos with 15 points. For Bayern, the starting five was Rathan Mays, Lucic, Obst, Mike and Gabriel. Rathan Mays stood out with 18 points, 5 rebounds and 8 assists, albeit with low percentages, while Mike scored 18 points and had great percentages. Let's go to Zalgiris' victory in Monaco. For Monaco, the starting lineup was Zakobo, Tice, Diallo, Mirotic and James. James was the best with 24 points, although he was a poor 2 of 7 from 3. Mirotic also stood out with 16 points and Tice with 17 points. For Zalgiris, the starting lineup was Williams-Goss, Francisco, Wright, Ulanovas and Lowe. Wright was the best with 21 points. Let's go to the champion Fenerbahce and their victory against Paris. Fenerbahce's starting lineup was Baldwin IV, Melli, Horton-Tucker, Biberovic and Hall. Hall led the way with 22 points and 83% on three-pointers, accompanied by Horton-Tucker with 20 points. For Paris, the starting lineup was Ouattara, Robinson, Hi-Fi, Herrera and Mbaye. Hi-Fi led the way with 23 points. Let's go with Asvel Valencia. For Asvel, the starting five was Seljas, Harrison, De Colo, Undiai and Vautier. De Colo stood out with 17 points. Valencia continues his great form. The starting five was Taylor, Rovers, Moore, Thompson and Pradilla. Moore stood out with 12 points, 8 rebounds and 10 assists. Costello with 13 points and 10 rebounds, and Rovers with 13 points and 6 rebounds.